I really don't know what I'm doing. Hi, I'm Kayla Manda. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here. And today we are doing part 2 of my beta process videos. If you are here, you probably already know what a beta is, but the incredibly short version is that a beta is someone who reads your book before you send it to agents and editors and gives you reader level feedback. Not another writer necessarily, but someone who reads your genre and will be able to tell you as a reader, as your audience, what they think about it. In part 1, I talked about how I have weird feelings about asking people to put the time and effort into betaing this book for me, considering that I am not actually taking it to an agent or a publisher. I'm not trying to get Karen Alex's book published. So if you want to hear me process my feelings about that at the camera, I will link the first video in the card. But I wanted to separate them because I think this video might actually help someone, maybe, might, heavy emphasis on the might. So that video is me processing my feelings, and this video is me talking about the actual practicality of how I'm doing my beta process. Right from the top, I just want to remind you that I claim no authority. I am 3 cats and a goblin in a trench coat, and I don't know what I'm doing. I have only ever had experience with the betaing process as a part of writing fanfic. So I've handed my friends my fanfic with comments turned on and been like, do you think it sucks? But this is a much different process than that, so I don't know what I'm doing. I'm totally out of my depth and I'm just stumbling along. If someday someone can benefit from my trial and error, that's amazing, but I'm not telling you that this is how to do it, and I am not telling you that this is even the best way for me to do it, much less someone else who has different needs than I do and who thinks differently than I do. We're just gonna do it this way this time and see what needs to be changed the next time I do it. I'm pretty jazzed on it though. I don't know if you've picked this up about me, but I love a system and a spreadsheet, so I have systematized this to within an inch of its life, because overworking a process makes me feel like I'm in control of the process. Ooh. That was something I hadn't thought about and I just said and now feel weird about having realized about myself. Talking on the camera about my writing process continues to be a learning experience for me, because I just say things to the camera to explain where I'm coming from. And it's the first time I've heard it, even in the quiet of my own head. So yeah, I guess overworking a process makes me feel like I have control over the process, and for something like betas, where I am inherently out of control in the process, I just have to give my book to someone else and hope that they like it, that feeling of control gives me comfort and helps to assuage some of my what if they hate it anxiety. Okay, well, personal revelations aside, I told you in my previous video that I have broken up my book into documents which are 3 to 5 chapters, and at the end of every chapter section I'm going to have a questionnaire, including a questionnaire for the midpoint and then an additional one for the final thoughts from my readers. So what I have done to make my process as easy for my readers and hopefully myself as possible is that at the end of every chapter section, there is a link to a Google form questionnaire and then a link to the next set of chapters. So before moving on to the next chapters, you can just do the questionnaire right there. You don't have to look for anything. You don't have to go hunting in your email for a form. You don't have to go anywhere else. It is all within the document, which I think makes it easier to just sort of get into the flow of it and do it right away while you're still thinking about it, but also maybe helps people actually do it instead of telling themselves that they're going to fill out the form and just not getting around to it, or telling themselves, oh, I'll fill out 2 questionnaires after the next set of chapters. It also means that they don't have to come to me for the next group of chapters when they're ready to move forward. They can totally read at their own pace and I don't have to worry about it. I can just sort of collect responses as they come in. I don't know if you can hear my cat screaming, but you good? I gotta let them in or they're gonna yell at me. Can I pet you? No, okay, sorry, Jesus. So in one of the videos that I've linked below, Bethany points out that Google Forms actually collates your data into a spreadsheet for you, which is very exciting for me. God knows I love a spreadsheet, but also I use organization to procrastinate. I can use it to tell myself that I'm actually being productive and not just wasting time and avoiding the hard work of actually working on my novel. I will organize a spreadsheet far beyond the point that it has been beaten into submission and try to make it look as pretty and organized as possible rather than actually, using it for what it's intended for. So having my data entered onto a spreadsheet for me means that I, A, don't have an excuse to procrastinate plan on it, and B, I don't have to waste the time pulling all of my disparate pieces of information into one spreadsheet so that I can find it like easily and clearly. I can just go through and find all of the data that people have given me in one collected place. So I did do a little bit of overworking at the top on my Google Forms, but I think that wasting a little bit more time on the organization part ahead of the game will help prevent me from spook. I swear to fucking... They're so cute and I love them so much, but like my intense desire to just bake them into a casserole some days, a casserole if you will. I did do a little bit of overworking at the top as I was setting up my Google Forms, insofar as I have them all depositing their information into the same spreadsheet. Each chapter section gets a single page on a spreadsheet, and that way I don't have to go to different documents. I can work within the same document and it has all of my information in one place. I can just toggle between different sections. It also means that if I want to have any other pages, like who was reading off what document, who got things back to me in what kind of time frame, I can have those spreadsheets in the same place as well and just keep all of my beta feedback together. I know this all seems very organized, but it is absolutely a reaction to my natural chaos brain and my natural inclination to be as disorganized as fucking possible. So the fewer separate documents, the fewer places I have to go looking for things, the easier it is for me to find them in the long run when I actually need them. Okay, so structural stuff done. I think what you're actually here for is what questions I'm using. And now I've high graded these questions out of the videos I've linked below, out of just things I wanted to know. So I don't know if this is too much information or too little information or the wrong information entirely. This is just what I'm going with because it feels right, and I'll let you know if it actually is right. So each section is 3 to 5 chapters long because it was more important for me to group chapters that were like narratively relevant as opposed to having each section be the same length. And this is because while each of my chapter sections does have a template for questions, which are all the same, some of them are a bit different. In one section, I have a fist fight followed almost immediately by fucking, and I wanted to be able to collect extra data on those. The fist fight is important for a character arc, and the fucking is important to get it right and hot. So I wanted to have an opportunity to ask my readers a little bit more information about that. So while each of my chapter section questions is built on the same template, they are a little bit different. So my template questions for the chapter sections are initial thoughts, favorite and least favorite scenes and why, thoughts on each of my leads, and then on a scale of 1 to 10, how much they liked the chapters and why, and on a scale of 1 to 10, how much they are excited to read the next group of chapters and why. And because I'm a professional and an adult, my scale goes from meh to hell yeah. Then I asked specifically, what did you like or dislike about Kara and Alex's interactions? I think this is because I feel so uncertain about my dynamic because, as I've said in another video, I really second guessed myself with them, and I don't think that did me any favors. So I want to make sure that the things I've done to try to fix that are actually working. And then my last question is just other thoughts. If there's anything that I haven't specifically asked about that you want to let me know. So then we have a midpoint questionnaire, and I know that like final thoughts questionnaires and overall thoughts are like very common, but because I spent so much time second guessing myself in this book, and I think that I needed to rework so much, I wanted to make sure that I hadn't like absolutely dropped any threads or my audience wasn't too confused at the midpoint. I think it's a pretty common place for readership to drop out. So I wanted to like really make sure I was nailing it and collect a little bit of extra data. This might be too much data. It might be asking the same question too many times. We shall see. I will update you on how it actually goes. But for the time being, I did want to try to just get as much extra data as possible so that I'm not missing anything. I'd rather get the same answer more than once as opposed to like not ask the right question and completely miss an important piece. So my midpoint questions are what's working, what's not working, and then where are you lost or confused? I might add a second question to this part or like reword it a little bit, because at the midpoint there should still be questions unanswered. There should be things that my audience is curious about and wants to know. And that has a different connotation than like lost or confused, which implies negative things. Like that implies me not being clear as opposed to me leading them along in a like satisfying sort of suspenseful way. So if you have any thoughts about how I can better phrase that or how I can phrase sort of a secondary question that captures that more, please leave a comment down below. Please let me know. I am totally open to suggestion. Then we just have how do you feel about my leads, and some of my weirder questions, which is what do my leads look like and what are their personalities? This is like really specific to me because I know that I am not great at doing character description, and I made a lot of changes to Alex specifically, but a few to Kara as well in my rewrite process. And I want to make sure that they seem consistent and that I have done all of the appropriate work of letting my readers know like who they're dealing with. By the midpoint of the book, you should know what they look like for sure, and you should have a pretty good sense of who they are as people. So I want these questions to capture that and to make sure that I'm actually delivering. Then we have what works and doesn't work and the tension between them, because like it's a romance novel, that tension between them, that dynamic is kind of the whole point, and I want to make sure I'm getting it right. And of course, other thoughts. All of my questionnaires end in other thoughts so that you can like tell me whatever you want, even if I haven't specifically asked about it. Then we go on to the ubiquitous final thoughts, final questions. Overall, what did you think about the book? Those questions are what's working, what's not working, where did you get lost or confused? And at this one, I don't need to reword it. I don't need to add a secondary question. Kara and Alex's book is not sequel bait. I don't want any lingering doubts. I don't want any questions left unanswered. So I really want to just know like where are people confused, where have I dropped the ball, and like be able to tie all that up in a nice bow. And then I have specifically where does it need more world building in case like world building stuff doesn't come up in the Lost and Confused, just to make sure that I am making my world feel lived in and complete and people understand it. Then we have, are there any other characters that should get more or less screen time? Screen time. What are your final thoughts on my leads? On a scale of 1 to 10, how hot was the sexual tension? And on a scale of 1 to 10, how hot was the sex? Both of those things are important to a good romance novel for me. I like a smutty romance novel, so I want to make sure that I'm delivering that. Then I want to know how you felt at the end of the book and how you felt about the length. I don't know if I love the how do you feel about the length question, but I took it out of someone else's question list, and I think that it is a good way of figuring out like, is it too long? Am I dragging? Am I giving too much information? Am I rushing it too much? Like, where are we at? And then I have specifically like where was a slow part or somewhere that would have lost your attention. I think that when people are baiting for you, they are much less likely to drop off as a reader, where they might naturally not be inclined to continue on with the book because they're like doing you a favor. They know that you specifically want feedback on the whole book. So I want to be able to capture where like just a casual reader might have become bored and wanted to just DNF my book. The final two questions are on a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you like it overall? And then of course, final thoughts. Anything else you want to tell me that I've not specifically asked for. So that is where we're at. I am waiting for people to start reading it and to come back to me with feedback, even though that is a terrifying process. I haven't yet decided on the whole using a paid beta thing, although Danica Gray recommended I look on Fiverr, and that people are like very affordable on Fiverr, which is a thought. If you're not watching her, you should be, by the way. She's like very clever and interesting and charming, and she thinks I'm funny, so that's basically all I ever need in a person. But I haven't decided about that paid beta. I'm already freaked out enough about people who do like me giving me negative feedback, even when it's negative feedback that I have specifically asked for and that I know will only improve my process and will only improve future books. It's really hard and I don't want to read it. I don't want to hear about people saying that my book wasn't good in any way, even though I know that there are lots of places in which my book is not great and really could use some work. There are a number of scenes which in my revision process, I was like, fuck it, I don't know how to fix this. I'm just leaving it. I know it's wrong and I'm leaving it anyway. So it's not like I don't know that there are things that need work, but it's still terrifying to have other people pick that out and tell you. So I just have to sit and be present with the fact that they are not going to universally love every single thing in that book, and that they're going to tell me that. And that's good actually, because I asked for it. This is the worst. The next things that I have to do are a query letter and a summary for the fiction of me submitting to Pitch Wars. As I've said before, I'm not actually submitting to Pitch Wars. It's just sort of like a redemption arc for me, proving that I could if I wanted to. But those are the next two things that I need to do. So videos about that will go up soonish, which could be like theoretically informative and helpful. Like this was theoretically informative and helpful. I know a lot of my videos are just me like processing my feelings about writing and being a writer and procrastinating and perfectionism, but hopefully this one was less that and more like how I'm actually doing a thing rather than how I'm feeling about the thing, and that you got something from it. I was gonna say that I will try to be less of like a stress monster who processes her feelings at the camera, but I think we all know that's a lie. So I'm just not gonna lie to you because we're beyond that. So what I will say instead is that I will try to add a few more quasi-informational videos going forward. I do have those 2 coming out with the query and the summary, and I will of course get back to you with any information I glean from this whole beta process. Either what questions were more or less successful, any changes I might make to the process itself, or, you know, the actual feedback I get that I can then apply to future projects. And speaking of future projects, since Karen Alex's book is kind of on the downswing, I can actually start thinking about what my next project might be. I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited to be away from fucking shapeshifters and get to do vampire shit because vampires are the best. Fight me about it. Vamp, like, and war in the comments below. I should watch Underworld again. Anyway, thank you as always for being here and sticking with me to the end of this video. If you're looking for me anywhere else, I am pretty much everywhere as Kayla Amanda. That is Kaylughmanda. And if you want to see my naughty kittens being like not so naughty but incredibly cute, they are Spook and Min on Instagram, and that's Min with 2 N's.